and the Jinshan Wang Jajun Wang Yangdang. Zobe Sanje Ribada Shansun them. The Orisha Wan Jiten Jimba Juan de Mercano. Anna Mervan Hada Menon Jetum. Sanje Jimden them Benjo was Shajatu. Chazen or children Jasu Chewu Demba Jimden and the Shinshan. Jajun Wang Yangda Wang Sanje Ribada Shansun. The Orisha Wan Jiten Jimba Juan de Mercano. Lana Hada Menon Demba Sanje Jimden de Benjo was Shajatu. Chazen or children Jasu Chewu Demba Jimden and the Shinshan. Rajan Bayanda was of it, Sanjay Bada Shansun, the Orisha. Unjiden Jamba Jiwon de Kalo Jawa, Lana, Tada Menanje Dema Sanjay Jumden, the Shaja. Chazen or children Jasu Chewu, Zekanye, Sajan de no Command Jumbrane, and then Jiden de no Chaja. The Zekiava Jano, Chazamo Namda Kuma Chodo. Jazu Seja Lumboda, Tavan Jeden. Bombo Chonye Jono Chazeno, Senjo Demba Timenda. Sendon Dawajono, Chazeno, the region, Seba so much. Yame Jenjen Jono Chazeno, Bombo to Jet, Tomje. Sonoman Jazu, the Jenjo Chazeno, Taben de Jatra. Giving as one letter, Jeto, tell them a show you over Shinjur Jono. Jenna driven Lanya de Lavata, Rabdune Shingatam. Gideon Lanya Charles and one the question, Mission Gawap. Rangasam Yoso do ten and Sanjetem, Karmata Rim. You must have a sugar down, melon lot of gender, the Jason. Some dear come just about you, Cobantum, the ginger. Nada, Shiva love to receive some one driver.
To the teacher, the blessed one, the one God beyond, the Bodhisattva, the completely perfected, fully awakened, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, the whole of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakyamuni. I prostrate make offerings and go to the teacher, the blessed one, the one God beyond, the Bodhisattva, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, the law of the world, supreme guide of beings to the teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakyamuni. I prostrate and make offerings and go forward. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one God beyond, the Bodhisattva, the completely perfect, fully awakened, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, Lord of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakyamuni. I prostrate and make offerings and go forward. Supreme among humans, you alone exist. You placed out 7 stripes and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise and I prostrate. With pure bodies formed supremely pure, with motion like golden mountain, flame that blazes in the 3 worlds. We know the best. To you I prostrate. With the spring signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are known. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. Savior in great compassion, teacher in all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like the vast ocean. To you, the one come to thusness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtues which frees one from lower worlds, the one path, the sublime pure. To that Dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realization, who are devoted to the moral precepts. To you, the sublime community of living virtue I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Strong mirage of flame of a lamp, an illusion of drop of dew or bubble,
dream, flash, lightning, cloud,
see
see
conditioned things as such.
through this merit,
may sentient beings obtain miracle or state,
subdue the
four
four,
forms,
and be
delivered
delivered
from motion, suffering,
aging,
aging, sickness, and death.
Sanje Shana Zoje Shana Na Changju Pando Tane Nagin Jeso Jeba Sonam Je Rola Penji Sanje Sanje Shana Zoje Shana Na Changju Pando Tane Nagin Jeso Jeba Sonam Je Rola Penji Sanje Sanje Shana Zoje Shana Na Changju Pando Nagin Jeso Jeba Sonam Je Rola Penji Sanje Sanje Shana Zoje Shana Na Changju Pando Nagin Jeso Jeba Sonam Je Rola Penji Sanje
I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Lama, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Lama, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Lama, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Tamje Jema La Cha Zolo Deda Sanje Jemde De Ande De Dishe Shepan Tasho Ma Ya Da Ma Zobe Rewa Da Shazon De Man De Vare Shepan Chiden Jemba Jubon De Vekalo Jubon Ma Nambe Pada Mena Je De Ma Sanje Jemde De So Dishin Shepan De Sonam Da Be Yudu Gewe Zawa Nama Chume Zaba Sebe Rabdo Jemba Sonam De Tere Nam Jishi Peje Sambo Nam Je Jemba Senam Jemba Do Jemba Juyo Remba Tuma Tonam Be Dumba Meba Tebe Meba Nabrako Sheraba Sigi Medaba Tonama Zevan Simja Tunji Damba Chanju Zeman Yap Habea Kazana Jim Yangane Tranjo Tebe Ishepado Meba Boba Sanja Meju Sonamrata Yani Kujeta Chomij Kusumba Meba Devata Gama Soda Ganyama Sumeba Tumena Pumbota Kamananda Medema Jason Devana Machine Young Noah number 2 Seva Lea Juba Chuo Lengi Yishi Yonzo Deba Majumba Tajum Sanje Jumne de Yishin Lea Yangana Deva Meneva Yanda Vanija Tala Neva Simja Tamja Basiva Salashu. The Dania Sanje Jumne de Yukushi Yanda Yanda Tabeshin Tomagi Padu Tamagi. Tehazamba Sindus and Mamajebo Yonzo Yonzo Chawa Yanda Demi Tusheva Mewata. Detwana Tenyova Kevan Jesozo Rangaju Jumne de Yavasu Bishun Yarajama Zobe Shaju the Rovache one medium by Bata, Temba Yuba, Yuvache, or Tebachi. Leverage, Rivership, Chambashu, Timbershu, Temaja, Vezu, Charge, Sana Gibeji, the Joa Chimaji, Kuno, Jimena Zuju, Kangia to the nearest one, Tawata, Tabation, Quadam de la Chat. Yeah, I think let me read once again from the 254. Objection to the assertion that worldly perceptions invalidate the refutation of arising from others. So remember that from the beginning there's a negating the the arising. Nothing arises by itself. Nothing arises from others. So not arising from both itself and others. Nothing arises without a cause. So here the particularly refutations of arising from others. And some might think that arising from others is just ultimately and conventionally there is relatively things can arise from others. So refuting arising from others, even at a conventional level. So that's an objection to the assertion that worldly perceptions invalidate refutation of arising from others.
If ordinary perceptions constitute the valid knowledge, suchness will be seen by common folk. What need for the Arya then, uh, and what need for Arya path? Yes, it's wrong to take the foolish mind as valid as well. So this Chandrakirti's text, the root text, looks like it's saying that ordinary perceptions or the conventional knowledge is not valid knowledge. So the Prasangika, what does it mean from the Prasangika point of view? The conventional knowledge is valid with respect to the object itself. Other than that, it is arise from itself or others or both or without cause. These are unknown or never really kind of inquiry about how things arises. So what has arisen, before the direct perceptions is the conventional. So conventional perceptions understand only kind of one aspect. So it is valid with respect to the object itself. The suchness will be seen by common folk if the conventional, for example, ordinary eye consciousness is not just valid knowledge with respect to the color, but it also valid to knowing, the dependent arising of the color. Then you don't need the Arya path or the Arya wisdom, right? If the eye consciousness understands how color is existing, then you don't need the Arya paths. Your eye consciousness is enough to, to understand every aspect of the color. Yeah, I think it's one, which means that if your eye consciousness is the valid with respect to the every aspect of the color, then you don't need the realization emptiness, because the valid knowledge or the valid perceptions have enough power to prevent the misconceptions. So ordinary eye consciousness has not really valid, not very a valid knowledge for the every aspect of the color. Therefore, there is space enough for generating the misconceptions and negative emotions. So therefore, you need the Arya wisdoms. Therefore, you need the Arya path. So, and this, the root text is saying that since ordinary perceptions has no validity in every respect, so which means the ordinary eye consciousness or nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, air consciousness, body consciousness, or the mental consciousness has the perception has no validity in every aspect. So no worldly perspective can invalidate the context of the suchness. Therefore, ordinary kind of perceptions has no access to understand the emptiness of color, sound, smell, taste, tactilities, which implying that therefore you need Arya wisdoms, and therefore you need Arya path. So in the commentary it says that now the opponents might wish to arise as objections. Now the opponent might wish to raise the objection from the perspective of everyday world to the repetition of arising from other on the ultimate level. So that I think here they use the wording everyday world. So actually in the text sometimes they use like the ordinary perceptions, the ordinary world, that there's the two kind of ordinary person. One ordinary person who has understood the emptiness, but just intellectual, not experience. And another ordinary person, and has not really gained realization or even intellectuals. The two. So that sometimes they can Jigden Rangawa, term that used in the in Tibetan. So Jigden Rangawa and Jigden was two. Ordinary and the mundane ordinary, the ordinary has two kind of ordinary. One ordinary is intellectual understand, and one even not gain intellectual understand. It's two. So here the everyday world is referring to the ordinary persons who has not really gained the wisdom understanding emptiness. Do you hear the sound?
You want me to check the water?
No, there's no noise.
Yeah, the high-pitched sound.
Oh, oh. Today we have direct perception of the Julie. So there's the two kind of ordinary persons. Ordinary means, in terms of someone who has not really on the actual path, right? We're trying to gain the path, but not really yet to any path, like path of liberation or the path of enlightenment. So path means 5 paths: path of accumulations, path of preparations, path of seeing, path of meditation, path of normal learning. Right. So one who hasn't really actually on the path of liberations is ordinary. Right. So within the ordinary, so one who has newly inferentially understood the emptiness, and one who has not really gained that realizations. Right. So why I'm saying is because they use this here, the opponent might wish to raise objection from the perspective of everyday world to the repetition arising from others on the ultimate level. So the everyday world means the ordinary sentient beings who has not really has the intellectual understandings. Had we here admitted that perception of the everyday world were authoritative in the sphere of inquiring into the nature of suchness, such objections might be appropriate. For if ordinary perceptions constitute the valid knowledge with respect to the suchness, suchness will be then seen or directly realized by the common worldly folk. So, which means our eye consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, mind consciousness has not really, understood the emptiness. So, which means, so we need to generate the eye of wisdom. We need to, accumulate the path to the liberation of enlightenment, because we haven't really penetrated the ignorance yet. So this kind of coming back to this root text is saying your eye consciousness, although is just valid and with respect to the color that you see, your air consciousness just valid with respect to the sound that you hear, but you have not yet understood how this is dependent arising or it is independent, right? So you haven't really figured out dependent arising or independent. You just understood what it appears to the mind. So otherwise the common folk may have understood the emptiness. And given that these situations would have to have been true since the beginning last times. So this, sentient beings' unaccess to the emptiness is from the beginning last time. One would then have to admit the common people have eliminated ignorance. So if the ordinary sentient beings, right from the beginnings, every kind of valid cognitions has access to emptiness, then the common people might have so far eliminated all ignorance. And then enlightened being and common beings, there's a common locus of that. In that case, what need is there for the Arya then? So if you have access to the all aspect of even for the color, and you don't need the Arya path, who are others, for direct realization of the suchness, and what need is there then for seeking the Arya path? So there will be no point in doing so. Yet, it is wrong to take the foolish mind of ordinary people as valid with respect to the suchness as well, since the ordinary perceptions has no validity in every respect in the context of inquiring into the suchness. So no worldly perspective can invalidate the context of the suchness. So saying that ordinary perceptions has no access to the ultimate natures, therefore you cannot use the ordinary knowledge to invalidate the ultimate natures. Right? You cannot refute emptiness just because you have unknown. So you are unknown to the emptiness. So this is almost like saying, oh, every phenomenon is not absence or intrinsic existence because I don't see it. I don't read it. It's not making sense to me. Some taking the phrase, there's another some masters, by reading this Nagarjuna's or Chandrakirti's root text, some taking the phrase, since ordinary perception has no validity in every respect, as a rejection of any notion of valid cognitions, criticize the system of the Chandrakirti as an inferior tradition. So some, reject the Chandrakirti's point of view because so saying that, Chandrakirti says this ordinary sentient being has no valid cognitions. So ordinary sentient beings know nothing. So which means, so the Chandrakirti says that every ordinary sentient beings knowing nothing, which means ordinary sentient beings have no knowledge of farming, no knowledge of business, no knowledge of cooking, so sewing, right? So ordinary sentient beings no knowledge of how to make table, So this master says, this is what Chandrakirti means. So the Prasangik school traditions is inferior. It is, And other masters, the others, citing the same reasons, extolled it an excellent system, praising this Chandrakirti systems by saying, Chandrakirti systems or Prasangika schools, and Prasangika schools thinks that ordinary sentient being has no valid cognitions. Oh, that's a very good idea. So yes, the ordinary sentient beings do not know anything, right? Do not know anything. So the both interpretations makes assertions without properly understanding the standpoint of the masters. So these both masters, one praising Chandrakirtis, one criticizing the Chandrakirtis, both fail to understand the Prasangik school point of view. So thus revealing their own true self. So which means this revealing their true ignorance or their true, what's that? Self is. Yeah, so revealing these two masters has not really understand the Chandrakirti's point of view. So it doesn't matter one who praised Chandrakirti or one who criticized Chandrakirtis. So if you think Prasangika school or Chandrakirti thinks that ordinary sentient beings no knowledge, is you have failed to understand the Prasangika school point of view. So this is because the both parties apparently take the statement that worldly perspective as never authoritative, right? Authoritative in every respect when it comes to the suchness, to mean that valid cognition cannot be accepted in any context. Insofar the valid cognitions and its objects are concerned, this must be understood in the Chandrakirti system as they are explained in the clear words. So Chandrakirti's commentary on Nagarjuna's text, the clear word, where the valid cognition and their objects are negated as existing by virtue of an essence, and are presented instead mutually defined. I will expound more on this below. So the Prasangika school says eye consciousness, ordinary eye consciousness, yes, it understood, it realized the color, but it not realizing colors dependent arising or independent. Right? So the ordinary sentient being sees the color, they understand the color, they have revealed the color, but they do not know how the color is existing, relatively existing.
Is it true that sensorial consciousness does not have access to understanding suchness?
Yeah, so if you think that, the ordinary, the sensory perceptions, the understanding is kind of, the sensory perceptions and the thought is kind of always associated to reveal some kind of knowledge. So without thought, the sensory perceptions have no idea what is right. So with thought and sensory perceptions, can understand things and can identify some things. So like when you eat food, the eating is with the mouth you are eating, but without help of hand, you cannot eat. Right? Otherwise you are a cat. So the context and the manner in which worldly perspective can invalidate. The context and manner in which worldly perspective can invalidate. So sometimes you say that, so the worldly perspective, the conventional knowledge, so how do you know it's something that against the conventional knowledge? So the Prasangika school says the absence of intrinsic absence of intrinsic existence is not revealed by the conventional knowledge, but still not against the conventional knowledge. Right? So it's not revealed by conventional knowledge, not against. Now, something and how, so something that is unknown by the conventional knowledge, but is still not harmed by conventional knowledge. How could that be? So then here, this is trying to prove, the Prasangika school says. So, which means with Prasangika school, trying to find the balance. So the ultimate and conventionals. So most of the conventionals is revealed by the conventional knowledge, but the ultimate natures is not revealed by the conventional knowledge. So then it ultimate, the nature is not revealed by conventional knowledge. Why is not against the conventional knowledge? So the conventional knowledge never really against the ultimate, because the conventional knowledge is simply kind of perceiving what relatively exists. So it never really go beyond that relative existence. So this is why it's not against. So, and here the important thing is some masters and some like Swatantika school, Minority school, and Vavashika school, they're all things. Yes, we can understand when the sprout arises, it's not arising by itself, but it arises by depending on others, the seed and the soil and the heat and the waters. So the sprout arises from others. So the sprout arises from other is, they're saying this is the conventional understanding. So the Prasangika school says, no, this is not the conventional understanding. This is not even a conventional knowledge. So no ordinary perceptions is, seeing or thinking or seed has born from others. So then the school says, yes, the ordinary sentient beings thinks that, the sprout and the seeds are different. So therefore, sprout has to arise from others. And Prasangika school said, no, so sprout arises and the seed is, seed. It is not different from the sprout, but there is the difference in time, right? There is a difference in time, seed and sprout. There's a difference in time, yogurt and milk. But yogurt is no different from the milk. Milk is no different from the yogurt. So then other school, Swatantika school, they says, no, this is really when difference in time, and that means they are different. And when the seed and sprout are different, and sprout must be arises from others. So the Prasangika school, and they argue with that, and Swatantika school says, so then let's, I'm not going to dispute with you, but I'll just leave it to the ordinary knowledge. So the ordinary knowledge accept arising from others. And the Prasangika school said, no, ordinary knowledge is not accepting arising from others. So he says if everyday facts rejected from the perspective of worldly consensus. So now this is like everyday facts. Yeah, in Tibetan, jigten means conventional object, conventionally cognizable objects. So the everyday fact means conventionally cognizable objects are rejected from the perspective of the worldly consensus. Then this will be invalidated on the authority of everyday experience. If conventional, it's ordinary object other than emptiness, right? If the ordinary object is refuted or rejected by the worldly experience, so then yes, you can say this is the invalidated by the conventional knowledge. So in that case, the one might ask, what is the manner in which worldly perspective might invalidate? So now, if everyday effects, the everyday object, or everyday conventional object, if everyday facts, acknowledged, and established by the world are rejected from the perspective of the worldly consensus, then the standpoint of this person will be invalidated on the authority of everyday experience. So now they're coming back to the point, say the person stated that someone stole the substance of mine. Another person asks him, what kind of substance? And to which he replies, a vase. Now, if in response, the other person's retorts, right? A vase is not a substance because it is the cognizable objects, like vase in the dream. It is the content of kind of refutations that is understood by the perspective of the world. So, for example, here the Prasangika schools, they use like, for example, the sprout is not arising intrinsically. Sprout is not arising intrinsically because it's a dependent rising, right? So now you cannot use that, in the context of the ordinary understandings. So you cannot tell your mothers or your parents or your people saying that, oh, so the sprout that arising in your field is there's no arising because nothing intrinsically arises. So which means you are against the conventional knowledge. You cannot tell the farmers there's no sprout arising, right? So for example, you say, you cannot tell people tomorrow is not going to arise because tomorrow is not intrinsically arising. So that is the ultimate, from the ultimate point of view, you are trying to against the conventional knowledge. So here we only says tomorrow, yes, there is coming of the tomorrow, there's the arising of the tomorrow, but not intrinsically. So that is the, the proper way of, constituting the suchness of the tomorrow. So the other school thinks that, Prasangika school rejecting or refuting intrinsic means they are refuting the, when you refute intrinsic nature of the arising, they think they are refuting even the, the concept of arising, right? Nothing intrinsically exists. For them is nothing, they are saying nothing intrinsic. So if nothing intrinsically exists, nothing exists by its own essence, which means they are not exist. For those kind of, school of thought, but it's not for the ordinary people, right? So ordinary people, they don't think that. So here I think here in this context, the saying, how do you know ordinary perceptions is not against? How do you know the ordinary perceptions is not refuting or not invalidating, any kind of, standpoint? So here's the Prasangika school says the emptiness, this establishment of emptiness is never really against the conventional knowledge, or conventional knowledge is never really against emptiness. So yeah, repetition, like a dream, it is the content of kind of repetitions undermined by the perspective of the world. In contrast, when it comes to the presentation of the suchness, which is done on the basis of taking one who is learned, right? One who's learned in the ultimate truth as authoritative, taking into account an Arya perspective on the ultimate truth. In such context, there can be no invalidations stemming from the perspective of the everyday world. So it's how do you really know the ultimate point of views is against conventional knowledge? So then this is, if you say that tomorrow is not coming because it's not intrinsic, so your ultimate understanding is against conventional knowledge. And if someone says, yes, there is arising from others, there is arising from it by itself, because the ordinary perceptions and understands things arising by itself, things arising from others. And Prasangika school said, no, ordinary perception is not accepting or not agreeing on the arising from itself and others. Arising from itself and others is philosophically superimposed. That's a superimposition. So the commentaries state that the learned one, they should analyze other similar questions on the basis as well. This demonstrates how repetition like following, which some days considered exemplar of the great Madhyamika reasoning, are open to invalidations from the perspective of world. So these include such refutations. I am not the owner of the vase, and Devadatta is not the one who stole it, because the Devadatta and I lack the intrinsic existence. So if you have, when you have a book and someone stole it, right? Then he says, he stole my book. He stole my book. Then third person comes and says, because there is no you and there's no him, because both are emptiness. So that's against, this is how you falling into nihilism. You cannot say nothing intrinsically exists if there is no one who had the book, and there's no one who can steal the book, because no one is intrinsically exist. Similarly, when someone says it grew at my farm, and others ask what is grown, to which he replies, a sprout. Say then that the other person's counter, the sprout is not devoid of arising. Sprout is devoid of arising because it is the cognizable object, and just like a dream person and dream sprout. So it's kind of here trying to find a balance conventionally. So conventionally says, yes, I can see things as born and things as are coming, is a conventionally. So this just by simply saying that, tomorrow is coming, today is arisen, is not against the emptiness, and you cannot say it's because everything is emptiness, because there is no today in the present, because the emptiness, there's no tomorrow to come. So the every repetitions of the ultimate level is, we are objectively negating, we are establishing relatively existence. Yeah, you understand? So you say, I am not objectively exist, right? But I exist dependently. I exist as owner of the body, by I am not owner of the body and independent from the body, right? There is no independent I who owns this body, but there is the I am who own this body, who have this body. Right? So the owner of the body and independent means like a car's owner, the cow's owner. So cow and cow's owner are independent, physically independent. So there is no me that independently having this body, right? Yeah, so is it difficult? Huh? No, it's so that's the kind of clarifying the confusions. So Prasangika school, what they're negating independent, intrinsic, inherent. They are not negating anything that exists. Prasangika school not negating or refuting anything that exists. It's only negate the things that not exist, but your mind believes things that exist, like intrinsic nature, inherent natures. Yeah. Then you can say, if Prasangika schools only negates things that are not exist, why do you need to negate? Because that does not exist. It is important to negate to convince your mind that things not exist. It's because the opposite of that, your mind is the experiencing the suffering because your mind insisting something that is not exist, but you believe that to be existing. So you're believing yourself as independent and owner of the body. So therefore, you need to convince the mind by negating there is no independent I. Yeah, so that's easy now. Yeah, very. You have any questions? Yeah, I think that's. Yes, Julie.
So what about if the mind doesn't have the body in the bardo?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, Bardo has always body.
Always body?
Yeah. So not like a friend buddy. There is the body. There's a body. It's not like a meat body. There is the very kind of settled body, or settled body in terms of there is the the body that is structured with the element. They can move. Anything that moves, that must have a body.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the subtle body the same as so human dies then it's the human subtle body?
That depends on the karma. If human being dies and that the continued consciousness is, lead by or the propelled by, and the karma that, karma that leads you to the hell realm, and that part is like a hell being. If the human being dies and there's the karma of the animal realm, that kind of, how to say, that leading, that part of is like animal.
So it's whatever subtle body is the next karmic body.
Yes. The part of body and next life body is very similar.
So they can't change?
They can change.
If on the way, hell realm body?
Yeah. On the way you can U-turn.
Okay.
On the way you can U-turn. If your driver is concentrating. So
if somebody gives them a map.
Yeah. So if drivers remember suddenly something, so they can, they can go back. You don't have to wait for the signal.
So like prayers can maybe help turn the
prayer
U-turn.
can help, faith, strong faith can help, and compassion, instantly the compassion generates that can change the, your route.
From a different person?
Yes. So that's why you said in Ngomba Kundu, the Asanga's text, the Abhidhamma of the Asangas, there's a line that's Chidin the Dogos. Why is not returning? Because there is actions. When there is actions, why there is no change? Some pardos, the karma that propelling, is the negative. But while he is in that, the processing, he still have actions. He can change the mind. So when he changes his mind, and the route has changed. So chiden the logo, tena never less souls. So tena never while you are in that process, you have actions. So you have actions. Action is changing everything. If you follow the continuous kind of go with this, the current of that karma, and you will born in animal realm or the God realm or so anything. So if someone in the Pardo states and going towards the God realm or the human being, but instantly he gets angry, he remembers something negative things, and that can change again. So that's
where is this located?
So
I'm debating with my husband. He said, "Ask Geshe-la."
This is located just beyond the, behind the Dojiten. So located means it's there. It is not really physically locating. It's the stream, it's the force, it's the habituations, it's there. So that's why it is changing.
But where is it?
Which one?
The Bardo.
Where is Capardo?
Yeah, if someone dies in Texas, their Bardo is in Texas?
Oh, there's no kind of, there's no certainty. Pardo is like, what do you call it? The feather in the air. So there is no certain location because their body is like very settled. It can instantly, how to move by the thought. Yeah. So you die in here, and instantly you thought about India, you are in India. So there is no visas required. So there is no plane tickets instantly. Because
so even if it's subtle body, then it's going wherever
Yeah.
the mind is going.
yeah, because our body, so we need to buy a ticket.
Right.
Yeah. So we have to take whole body, right? So,
Yeah.
so the settled bodies, there's no need because the the distance is measured from the obstructive phenomena. So the settled body is much less destructive the phenomena. So it is more like space, just instantly. Yeah, there's no distance. In India and America, there's no distance.
But there's no elements involved.
Yes, there is element. So therefore, they have a sense power. So that's why this called Pardo is called Juje, miracle born. So the miracle born, like God beings, the miracle born, and Pardo is miracle born. It's not born from egg, not born from the mother's womb. There's no born from the heat. So just miracle born, instantly. So with 5 sense power. So
Kind of get it.
yeah, this according to the text, it says, it's a miracle born. But if sometimes people think scientifically, saying that, oh, this has a form. So if there is a form, and so like there is some kind of level of the physical things there. So how can that be if there's a classical form? The classical form means it takes the space, occupies the space. So anything that occupies the space, it's obstructive to the another form. So then it cannot be overlapped on any physical things. So if anything obstructive form cannot be overlapped with any other's physical form, and it takes time to move. So that means there is the distance. Now the Pardos, Pardo physical form is almost like reflections. So there is no certain physical, like physically structured. So there is no, so almost like they settle energies. So settled energy moves with any elements. The Pardo's body is, there with that part of the body is there. Like the sound. When the sound you see the traveling. So from the first you make the sound from the mouth, and that sound's born from the elements in your body, in your mouth. And the second, when it travels, so the second, this second, I don't know, second, like, when the elements in your mouth, and then, how's that? Yeah, it's kind of like it makes the sound. That sounds depending on the elements in the mouth. So when the elements in the mouth is dissolved, and it finished, and then the vibrations is on another level outside of elements that makes the sound, and that vibrate in another level of elements. So the Pardos form is not really like you have a form and this particular form is just move around. So this is the Vasubandhus also kind of thinks that Pardo body can how's that? What do you call it? Penetrates the walls and penetrates now the Vasubandhus Versa school thinks that it can anything that physical form can penetrate, go inside out, right? Inside.
Go through the wall.
Yeah, go through the wall. And then Bodhisattva says, it can obstruct it. And Bodh Gaya temple and mother's womb. So that is really, and that, is there any scientific proof or not? Yeah. So that you can understand the mother's womb, because as a karmically, it obstructed. You're just, you're stuck. It's not physically really kind of, it blocks you, but the karma and the force of the karma, and you just stuck in the mother's womb. So any others like walls and mountains, they cannot be, stop that or obstruct that. Yeah, but there's a, and the Amda Gendishimbe, there's a very great scholar in Tibet, and he was prisoned by the Tibetan government for quite a long, and in his experience, he said he was, I don't know he has a clairvoyance or not, but he says he's directly experienced some of the bhardus are not necessarily the shape of that, figure of that is not necessarily according to the text. Because he said, I have seen those. So, and the text says the bhardo will be formed as alike like where you're going to born.
That's immediate.
Yeah, that's immediate, yeah. So it's kind of, there's the air, the space, and then the heat is there. So you can have a bhardo's form everywhere. Even the deep in the oceans, there is, the form, there is heat, there is the wind, right? Even there's, in the moon, there is no gravity like the earth, but still there is the energies that can, help the consciousness to travel.
Geshe-la, if this bottle, mind in the bottle can make a U-turn or change direction, who kind of influence this action? Is that the person die, have still, like at the moment when this person died, his state of mind can influence that the bottle state of mind, or who is giving this power to action to change the direction?
Yeah. It looks like one of the bhardo called Vasubandhu. So it's theoretical right now. It's theoretically, we can trying to understand that, because the sound is traveling. So each sound, the elements is not the same, but it can produce the same sound. So the elements is everywhere, the air, the heat, and everywhere. So the subtle energy is like, almost no physical form. So for the subtle energy is no need any kind of, there's no any obstructive phenomena can block them or can obstruct them, because the subtle energy has no distance of anything instantly, because it's almost like a wave. Wave has no physical. There's no physical distance for the wave. It's just theoretically we're saying that, And then some of the, Buddha and Bodhisattvas may have directly, perceived that the state of bhardo. Yeah, sometimes sometimes you can see some human beings, while they're alive, they can, go out with very subtle energy to, to enter the other's body, So there are sometimes some people that can do that. Like while they are sleeping, and there's some kind of mind, strong mind, that can create the subtle body, and they go out and enter in others' body, or they can travel to another place. Because there's some kind of mysterious things that but we can only try to understand those theoretically, but there is no really proof. So no, concrete proof does not mean it cannot be exist. So as I mentioned, the time, 3 times, are theoretically proved. There is no concrete proof for the 3 times existence. If you cannot prove the time in concrete existence, you cannot just by that, you can refute the time is exist.
So if for example, a monastery is doing prayers for the dead, then those prayers can cause a U-turn, maybe?
That's so that depending on the and the Vasubandhu text says that if I pray for the deceased persons, which is my relative, as the blood relations, my parents or relatives, so I can dedicate, like pray for that deceased persons. And then if the deceased persons has no blood relations, but you have shared the finance, so you have a business, with him, and you can do some kind of prayer for that persons. This is something you need, some relations. Right? So students or the teachers, parents, the relatives, and friends, the business partners, and the husband and wife, they can do that. So, but sometimes someone who is not related to them, and by praying by him, there is no really logically you can prove this can really help the deceased person. So, or you can, you are died and you are left sum of money, and this person says, oh, he left this money, so we're going to use this money for praying for him. Then he can receive it because the substance is owned by him. So you have to leave a little bit in account. or you can leave the will. Right, the will.
I think there's some things missing here. Well, anyhow, this is my understanding that we have a very strong habits, and particularly the habit of duality, and that there is said to be a period at the moment of death which can only last like a split instant, or it can last the time it takes to eat a meal. That there is a period where if you've been a strong practitioner and you've been able to rest your mind in a non-dual state, so you've kind of had some practice in being in a non-dual state, that you won't be overcome by the habit of you may not be overcome by the habit of duality if you've had the practice of being in that state, in which case you can recognize instantly your nature and not be stuck into what's ordinarily a habit for us, and have our mind's direction and subtle bodies determined by all these almost, I guess you could say, infinite lifetimes of habit. So there is a moment where a good practitioner has the potential to recognize. But for some people, it's only an instant, and this is what I understand. They miss it. They miss the chance because their habits are so ingrained. Then they see the bardo arise. And once the bardo arise, they still have some chance to recognize that the things that are arising are a kind of hallucination, that they aren't really separate from themselves, but they arise as an appearance separate for themselves. So then, of course, there's the other elements of Poa, for example. There's something else I understand than Poa where, like a master you've had a strong connection with, can also affect the direction of your mind or even introduce you after you let go of your body. There's still some connection there. So my understanding is, maybe for most people, it's inevitable that your habits will determine the nature of your cell body and where you'll be reborn. But it's not completely universal.
I think there's this, it sounds like the same questions that Julie raises. She was looking for the locations so that the power of that continuing of the state of mind, of the state of being that are continuously moving. So where is that things? So I think so that's the one thing. It's a very similar questions. And another is you're separate from yourself means. So are you seeing the separate from yourself means is the pardo, is it separate from one who was in a previous life, one who is died, separate from that, or you're saying separate from himself means, the coming of the pardo is separate from the alive persons. So what do you mean by separate from himself? So himself is going in the pardo state.
Well, of course, that's the problem with the illusory body, right?
Yeah, so illusory body.
We're separate. We have this deep habit of thinking we're separate, that we're independent and not interdependent.
I also many times I think about it, and then I always find those examples, like guava seeds. So the same guava seeds, so one that grow in my place, how I take care of the trees, and that change the seed. So the same seed, I have one, you have one, and you may not really taking care of that guava tree, not much giving the fertilizers, not really that guava tree has grown in under the not proper shade, not proper sun, or not watering, as it needed. And then one person, the same seed, taking care of that trees and fertilizing and good taking care of that. So from that trees, the seed may brings a little bit different, the continuation of the guava. So another question is, if I take the seed from the trees that you have properly nurture, right? That seed brings to another place. So I hope this has better fruit, and so then it says, so where is the power of that changing? So where it's located, right? So the power is not located in one place. The power is within the stream of the force. Is the continuations. So that's the one thing. So then when when the sprout manifests from that seed, we ordinary perceptions do not really see that tree is or sprout is separate from the seed, the one that you planted, or different from seed that you have planted. So you always is pointing at that guava sprout, says, this I plant. You don't say, I plant that seed and this came. So there is, in the ordinary understanding, they don't really see them as a different. But you can, when you look into the time, and there's a time difference. One, when you says, oh, when I was in 1967, 1970, 1980, I was this things. In the time difference, you can, see some of your time that is different from in the present time. But the entity itself, thing itself, is never really different from the one that in the past. Time differences, right? And the color is difference. And your face is, the kind of, you say, oh, yeah, 10 years before I have no wrinkles. Now I have wrinkles. So you don't say my face is different. I got a different face from my, from the 10 years before. You have same face, but from the time it's changing. So here in the Prasanga Sutta, there's ordinary perceptions do not really see this cause and effect are different. Now, only who sees that difference, who propound the seed and sprouts are different, is philosophically, just intellectually thinking that says, oh, because there's a time difference, and the size of the seed and the size of the sprout is different, and the color is the difference. So therefore, the sprout must be different from the seed. So in that case, you say, the yogurt. The yesterday was not yogurt. Yesterday was the milk. Now today is the yogurt. So therefore, do you really see this yogurt is different from the milk? So the ordinary perceptions do not see the cause and effect as a different. Right. So the first question that where is that conditions located which is changing things? So almost like bicycles or the car you drive, everything that cars moves, every time that car is moving in different directions, there must be a person. So someone who is different from the car, who is controlling. So the seed and sprouts, there is no one third persons who is giving a change. It is just following its own force. There is no independent conditions which is bringing that change. So therefore, you don't have to think. It is not necessary to have the condition that must be located in somewhere. When you drive the car, every movement is changed by the person. So when the barley sprout arising from seed, there is no in that process there is no third conditions. Third conditions, the Prasangika school, the Nagarjunas, they say there's a four condition. Fifth condition is not exist. So fifth condition means it is not a substantial cause, it is not objective cause. The physical things, there's no objective cause, there's no immediately preceding cause. So so there's no objective cause for the physical things. Objective cause is for the eye consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, object, the cast aspect to consciousness to manifest, right? So seed, the barley seed, the sprout, there is the substantial cause, which is the seed. There's the immediately preceding cause, right before the sprout is manifest, there is, last movement of the seed, immediately preceding cause. And then, there's the how we call the obedience, the ruler of the cause. What is the main cause which brings the sprout to manifest? So the obedience. So if there is, another cause which is like, holding the steering to control, and then that is the fifth conditions, which some religion thinks there's the God is the one that doing things. So you need to pray for the God to barley seed to give rise to barley sprout. If God is not happy, so he will stop the barley seed to give rise to the barley sprout. When you make the yogurt, milk to the yogurt, you have to again ask the God, please, let me make this milk to the yogurt. So you don't need to ask the God because the God is not involved in turning milk to the yogurt. I think this is the Julie thinks, where's the location? So where it's located? So you're seeking for the location for the condition. There is no location. It's just within that stream of continuations. So that every time when you face any positive consequences or the negative consequences, and then you say, oh, this is because that karma, that karma, and you say where that karma is located. You cannot just look up in the sky. It's just within the stream of the mind. There's, some activities of the mind is, being able to, what we call, activate certain non-dissipated karma, and then this stream has changed. The angers when you in the present mind when you get angry, so with anger it activates some of the negative non-dissipated karma and it brings the consequences. So when someone is annoying to you at the time and you develop some kind of sense of respect and compassion, the care, and then you're not allowing the anger to arise. So that brings some kind of positive consequences. So which means the compassion that is activating some positive non-dissipated karma. So non-dissipated karmas, the Vaibhashika school is like a bank statement. So Prasangika school is there is no substantial things as a non-dissipated. It's just within the stream of the mind. So the many things that comes with the mind. So one thing that the Prasangik school, Nagarjuna's text is saying that this, I still really don't understand that, saying within this life you have committed many karma. So just before the dying, so when this person is died, and all non-dissipated karma will, disappear for a while or die back for a while, because just before the death, the consciousness choose one single non-dissipated karma or some particular non-dissipated karma, and the rest will disappear. So then that non-dissipated karma is, lead the consciousness to the particular realms. So when you're born somewhere, and then all non-dissipated karma coming back, and then, with that consciousness. So I think he was talking about the convention relatively. Like, for example, when the bhikshu who, took the monastic vows, not killing, right? Not killing, not lying. So if the bhikshu has committed the killing in the past life, so in this life, we don't really consider he is the killer. So the name of the concept of killer is and die back or died with the person in the past life, right? So you don't say he's the murderer because he killed in many 100 lives before. So I think he was saying, so non-dissipated karma just before the die, all just disappear for a while, and then you choose the one non-dissipated karma, and then you're born, and you still have the non-dissipated karmas following you. Yeah, these are just many things. The conventional is more difficult, more profound than the emptiness. It's more complicated than emptiness is very simple, very straightforward. So this conventional is because we don't know what mind is really projecting. The languages they use constantly, gives the different meaning. Sometimes the pitch of the sound change the meaning, and sometimes the expressions, the same sound but with another expressions change the meaning. So here, so convention is more complicated. So like a guava tree, there's guavas. Look, some guavas. I have a guava from Thailand. Guava is more bigger and more hard. So I have a guava from Taiwan is more is smaller and more soft. So who's changing that? Who's making that difference? From one tree, the seed, you plant it in a separate place, and one you keep watering, and another so you forget the watering, and then the fruit will change. So Chaitanya Dogu, within the continuation there is the actions, which means this continuity can be changed in any time. So you cannot say just karma, we can do nothing, but you are doing. Sometimes you're making worse and making more smoothly, or finding the balance in that. So you are doing all the time. So the Bodhisattvas, for them, every unfortunate things, for them become the fortunate, because they have this tools to convert unfortunate to the fortunate. So then the Naropas, Telopa, and then there's another Nalendra masters. So they give up all the titles and the kind of with the respect, and then they just become like beggars, act like what call crazy men, because by giving up those titles and the respect, and they are getting something more deeper realizations. So conventionally and mundanely, it is the unfortunate, but for them, it's more fortunate. So yeah, here the born from others, they're saying in the Prasangic schools, they are refuting things arises by itself, things arises from others, things arises from the both itself and others, and there is no such thing can arises without cause. So the other school of thought, they say, yes, we can understand things cannot be arising without a cause, but things cannot be arise by itself, but things arising from others is real. Everything arises from others. So then what do you mean by this? What is that otherness coming from? So then it says, seed and the sprout are different. So therefore, sprout must be arising from others. So then they use this is how mundanely understood things arise from others. The Prasangic school says, mundane, you cannot use the mundane's perception to constitute the otherness of the cause and effect, because the mundane do not have any idea, the cause and effect in others. So mundane, they don't really see the cause and effect as different. So yeah, and also to this also kind of suggesting that you cannot say to the people and things are not arising because things do not arise intrinsically. Right? So not arising intrinsically and not arising is opposite. So things do not arise intrinsically, therefore things arises dependently. Right? So then there's this tomorrow coming with the tomorrow. So the Monday rather, day of tomorrow is coming. So then it says, there is no day in tomorrow to come. That we can understand. There is no day, right, that is already started to be coming, but tomorrow is the day is coming. So there is no contradictions. So next year is coming soon, right? So there is no year in the future to be coming, but next year is coming. So then you say, what is the problem? The arising, the tomorrow, the day of tomorrow. What is the problem? If there is day, and that is coming, what is the problem then? If there is the day, that must be, so day must be kind of start with sunrise. So there is no sunrise in the future. Sun hasn't risen in the future. So day hasn't started in the future. So because that is the future day. So when there is no day has started, how can there be day in the future? Yeah, future called yet to become, yet to come. So not yet exist. So if not yet exists, not yet started, not yet the day. I think this is very, very useful, the understanding of the time, how it relatively exists, how is the days or times are fabricated by the thought. If you understand that, and you're not, probably it helps you to not to, sometimes we say we are very disappointed or we are so ashamed of I have done something in the past. You almost see that day that already passed is something actually there. So then you can go in there and you can feel shame, you feel guilt, right? And something never really happened. What if I have done something in next day or next month? And then you also, there's something, worry, oh, how shame I did this. Actually, that thing, that day has not really exist, but you can still, you're emotionally, making that non-existent be existing, and then you can feel, uncomfortable. So that's what in the right sitting Sutra said, So what I was in my past life, what I will be in my next life. So these, the emotionally kind of, what do you call it? Is the expectations and emotionally kind of, how's that? Engaging on an object that is not really exist yet. So then you can worry every moment, because all these possibilities are, every day is possible. You can all possibility and create an imagination to put yourself in there. And sometimes you can be, without any reasoning, you can just make yourself, complete and perfect and too confident. But because you are imagining, so you are not that, but you just imagine yourself and you see them as truly is happening. And then people call it crazy. So how crazy that person is. Like, kids in the village, they say, they use the what do you call it, tire, the bicycle tire, the motorcycle tire. They play with them. They think they are riding a bike. So they just create the image, right?
I'd like to go back to the story.
There's one day in the monasteries, we have, one small monk. Every time when you go out from his room, you always go with like, So, yeah. When the lunchtime, he bring this plate and then he just drive. One day he was backing up, he fall in small pond. so he was begging. Yes,
I'd like to go back to the story of Angry Lama.
Angry Lama?
Because, Anguamala. Because it seems to me there's a big connection with what we're talking about, with the carrying forth of energy and habit into the bardo. It's really sounds quite identical. I mean, normally his habit was killing. Now, I don't remember quite the whole story. His master told him to kill. And I don't know, was his master angry at Buddhists? Was he anti-Buddhist? What was his master's mentality? Or did he mishear his master or what? What Was his master an enlightened being, or was he an ordinary being that he believed was enlightened? What was his connection with his master?
I think there's no point thinking that anti-Buddhist.
Well, the reason I'm raising it is his master told him to kill.
Yeah.
What kind of intent did his master have when he told him to kill? I mean, if someone says to Putin or Kim Il-sung, "Oh, this is really a good thing. You go kill, and you will go to hell," or it could be Islamic, you'll go to heaven and all this stuff. And he's just doing what his master says. I would think, first of all, his master was not an enlightened being. He was following an unenlightened being. His master would go, I mean, I'm just telling you how it seems, how it appears to me, that there's a continuity in his master's mind. And, there's murderers who kill people and eat them because they think they're absorbed the powers of the person they kill. So they almost see it as like they're getting some kind of immortal or permanent powers. And I don't really understand how he escaped, either he or his master.
Yeah, I think there's no way you can understand.
Consequences.
Yeah. The text didn't really mention how the teachers, what kind of practice that his Mongolian Mala is following, what is the instructions. So according to what Tantrayana or Sutrayana is never mentioned. The malas, the Tantrayana, there's sometimes it says the wrathful deities, to pleasing those wrathful deities. So you have some, even still, now in the old time in India, maybe still some practice this, offering the fresh blood to the wrathful deities. And some villages, very remote villages, they have this kind of traditions, like an animal sacrifice, and they believe that these deities will be pleased by the offering the fresh blood, and then some rich family they kill many of those buffaloes, the goats, and some they're very poor. They try to break the egg. They bring one egg. So this kind of, they were told, this kind of the culturally informed, so that this deity will be only pleased by just killing something. At least you have to bring an egg to break it. So there's many misinformations. So, and then because in the highest yoga tantra, and because in the sadhana you read, there's a Yamatagas, the mandala, there's so mandalas, the how's that? There's many circles, right? The final, there's the cemeteries. First, this made the fire fence, and then cemeteries, and around the cemeteries, there are the dead bodies that are eaten by the vultures. This kind of the imaginations is created there, and this was only practiced by the very intelligent and very profound understanding of the emptiness. Now, these informations pass it down to someone that's more foolish, and they'll think it's literally. So you have to go in the cemetery. You have to look at these things. So it's, this is like the how's that? There's a story of crow and peacock. So the peacock says, "I'm very beautiful," and crow wanted to. The crow wanted to be more beautiful like peacock, and he asked, "What do you eat?" The peacock said, "I eat those poison." And the crow eat the poison, and the crow die. So this is like, this is, very foolish person is trying to imitate, that someone has high realizations, and then they do these things, foolish things. So Lord Shiva's, this, what called. In the Yamataka also mentions on the body there's, they apply the ashes, ashes to the dead body. So, yeah, the Yamataka is one thing. Yeah, there's this. And Lord Shiva also, there's this, he on the body, he put the dead body ashes. And some of the sadhu you can see in India. So I saw many times the sadhus, they put the ashes on the body. And one day I asked, "So how do you feel?" And they said, "It's warm." So they always remain naked. And by putting the ashes, they feel more. There's the warmth. There's because maybe it's too much ashes. It keeps like, it like clothes. So that's why it's warm, or I don't know, because of its ashes. So in Tilupur, there's a cave. So Telopa's cave. So one day I was going there and I found some sadhus naked, and there's whole bodies ashes. And I asked, "So how do you feel putting this?" And he said, "Oh, this is very good because weather is cold. I put this, I feel warm." These people, they're trying to this is their desires to want it to be something, they want to be changed. They want to be lower to the higher. So what they can, they cannot really develop their mind, but instead of physically imitating something. So they think this gives them their comfort. So maybe Angulimala was misinformed by his teachers that, positive karma, the powerful positive karma can change. Powerful negative karma also can change you, make you more powerful. In the village, some of my old, elder, when I was very little, they told me that one of our village, there's one man, his eyes and the round is very red. So when you look angry, everybody's scared. And then some of my seniors, the elder man, that says, so in Tibet, he killed 3 people. That's why he has this eye. So it looks very powerful. It's very, just very dominating. So, and then the elder man told me because he killed 3 human beings. So that's why he has the power. So that's kind of, there's so many misinformations. So maybe I'm going to believe one of that misinformations. Angulimala, not the angry man. Mala is the mala, and anguli is the thumb. Yeah, mala of the thumb. Some anguli say, some unguli say, I don't know. Yeah. So this whole nothing arises from itself and others from both, no cause. So, but still there is arising. Arising is relatively. Because nothing arises by itself, not from both, not from no cause, is not refuting arising itself. So I'm trying to go back to the, the how's that main topic. So you want to chat with, So I think every day we witness ourselves. It's every day is changing. And every change, is you also understand that is some kind of, the following. So what you have, done or you acted in the past, a similar type of person is in the present. So today, what I do, right? Today, what I do and think and say, it will change similar to tomorrow. So if I change today from yesterday, and I will change tomorrow. So that's going to, this is the nature of the conditional things. Things are changing by cause the condition. So that, the eightfold path. So, changes always from realizations. This is called view. Like I change things, like mentally viewing the right, right view or right understanding. Understanding is only that can change you, right? So the assumptions, the presumptions, and belief has less power to change. So understanding, realization is it is the eye for the things, to see things as it is. So with that, you will change. That change is more reliable. So yeah, some people think they always, 1970s to 70s. His knowledge when he was young, he goes to most Hindu temples and mosques, and many elder monks, they don't really like that. So it's going to the temple, the Hindu temple is these things, is converting yourself. So this is just doing something is changing. Not thinking is changing. If the seeing and doing can change, we have much change so far. So eating is not going to change you, right? Seeing is not going to change you. Smelling is not change. So thinking can change. Many times I heard from the elder monks that they always kind of, whispering. So, oh, this one is going to this temple, this temple. Oh, that's not really good. That's not good. So, But you see in India, that recently now the younger generations are very open-minded. So the old-time Tibetan, I don't see Tibetan going to Hindu temple. A Hindu comes to Tibetan Buddhist temple. So Tibetan never goes. So they are more like, the kind of, carried by habituations. They don't really, how to say, they have no curiosity. So, yeah, and sometimes you see the Tibetans, when some of Tibetan goes to this particular hotel, every time in Delhi, and all goes to the So when this hotel is kind of closed, and then some they see, oh, this Tibetan, they're going this way. Oh, everybody goes like honeybees. So it's more habit driven. Yeah. In the South India, we have Modern Lodge, there's a one hotel, and then Ajanta Lodge. This is the most Tibetan goes because they have no reason, because this is how we go.
It's the same here.
Yeah,
I
everywhere,
remember
human
many-
beings like that, more like,
Yeah, I remember many instances. Oh, Rinpoche doesn't understand this. Rinpoche doesn't understand the Western culture. Rinpoche doesn't know these people are doing this or that. People always think their concepts and understanding is better than their, I should say, always frequently think their understanding on practical matters is much better than their teacher. And their teacher's making mistakes and just doesn't know better. I mean, that may be on occasions. I'm not saying that never happens. But
yeah.
But people give themselves a lot more credit than they deserve.
And people also like someone, people also like the listening, the one that they already understands. People don't, tend to liking the teachings, so they have no idea. If they have no really kind of, there's no keen interest understanding the reality. But they only want to listen what they have known. So that's why the religions happen. So always saying good things. Oh, you do this, you will go to heaven. This, do this, you will born that here. That realms, the God realms, the many, heaven, the paradise. Oh, they're like that. Oh, this because I already know about this. So, yeah. So the ultimate is we have to try to reach something, beyond the thought. Even your concept cannot reach. So that's where we're trying to reach. Go beyond the language, beyond the thought. Then we see what is our understanding. So then you see it's very, unstable, uncertainty. So object that we are living and imagining or conceiving, there is no ultimate kind of ultimate natures. Yeah, that's in the whole, Buddha's, when he was 35 to the 81, he was just telling this. But, the followers of the Buddha, and they always want to listen to something they already understand. So that's why too many in samsara, too little in the
Seems to me that when I read about the ancient Mahasiddhas in India, I don't know if I'm wrong or right about this. Many of them, maybe most of them, maybe nearly all, I don't know, seemed to master Madhyamaka before they went into Tantra. Tantra seemed something they had to have already established the ground in Madhyamaka. But my impression is later on, a lot of people, Westerners included, of course, but even in Tibet, we don't need Madhyamaka, we just do Tantra. Is it right? Is that people just seem to, oh, this is faster. This is, I mean, maybe it is faster, but it doesn't suit everyone. And what's faster for one person is not necessarily faster for another too. It seems that like even when you read some of the historical things, particularly Western scholars seem to think Tantra was invented later. That's what a lot of Westerns, it wasn't invented till maybe about the 4th century. But then when you hear Buddhist masters, very great Buddhist masters, like probably Sakya Treason, I suspect too, they seem to always say this was so secret that there is no history in the sense of Westerners, how Westerners have history. In fact, even what history means, I noticed was a Sakyas. I saw a very good discussion of this once. Their idea of history is completely different than the West. It seems to embrace what we would consider mythical and superstitious, as we would say superstitious, and they seem to treat it as fact. I never can quite bridge this difference in cultural perception of the nature of reality. It's quite shocking to me when I've come across it.
Yeah, these are just, just information. Some people think that, and then the information spread past to another person's. Even Tantrayanas, there's information that if you follow the highest yoga Tantrayana, you will be enlightened. At least, and after 16 life, it says, oh, this particular empowerment, you will attain enlightenment in the 3 lives. So almost like this, like they are selling the insurance. It's very much advertisement. It's, if we are talking about the bus or the fly, then you can say, if you go by bus, it takes this much hour. If you go by fly, it's this. And here is saying, flying yourself, you are flying with yourself. There is no train, bus, you're flying. So how can you say this will take, more fast, and this will take, more kind of delay? And so this is kind of the information. Sometimes people, trying to praise something to characterize this is the unique, and they have to compare with something. But there is no logical proof, So there's one thing is true, and sometimes you see it many times when Tantrayana saying, there's a Kunchen, I think Jayan Shiva, yes, the emptiness Sutrayana and Tantrayana is equally. There is Sutrayana emptiness is more profound, and Tantrayana is less profound. Or there's more profound in Sutrayana or Tantrayana. There's nothing. Emptiness equals same, but antidote, the realization emptiness is more profound in the Tantrayana than the Sutrayanas. Saying why? Because the Sutrayanas, the what explicitly mentioned of the defilement is about more like the concepts, the mind. So Tantrayanas defilements talking about habituations and appearance. So the obstacles of enlightenment mentioned in the sutra is less subtle than less profound than the obstacles they mentioned in Tantrayana. This we can understand. That kind of makes sense. The realization emptiness, the mind, the realization emptiness itself, you can say one that mentioned that Tantrayana is more profound, more powerful than this realization emptiness that mentioned literally or kind of explicitly in the sutra. So the Sutrayana talks about generally realization emptiness. Tantrayana mentioned the realization emptiness with the very mind that revealing the emptiness is not talking about general mind, is talking about the most settled consciousness. So that, you can say, yeah, there's, understandable, right? So the more settled the consciousness, revealing emptiness is more powerful to overcoming the obstacles. That part is we can understand. Now we say just by simply receiving empowerment, you can go faster, and not receiving empowerment is we will delay. There's no really logic behind that. So even the persons, intellectually, and even the mentally revealing emptiness, even that is directly perceiving it, if the consciousness is more grosser, right, more grosser level mental consciousness, and then another settled consciousness, the most settled consciousness, when this activates, and all the grosser consciousness will, discontinue for a while. So using that settled consciousness and by revealing emptiness has more powerful, because when this settled consciousness being activated and the rest of the consciousness just kind of rest for a while, they don't really active. Eye consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, your thought consciousness, all discontinue for kind of while the settled consciousness is active. This whole rest of the consciousness will disappear for a while. So then you can say, oh, this is more powerful. So the deeper the understanding, more the powerful. So in that deeper consciousness, with that deepest kind of realization emptiness, with that, yes, it can go faster. So it can more easily to overcoming the afflictive emotions. So the Tantrayana has mentioned this antidote that's more profound and more settled, which is not really explicitly mentioned in Sutrayana. So just by Tantrayana as mentioned, you just receive empowerment. It's not necessary you have this, most faceted path. The empowerment is just be there. You just listening the bell sound, and the Lama is talking about something. It's not going to make you deeper and more profound. So if the Lama can, if Lama can do that, send someone more faster and more, and someone just delayed, and the Lama must be not compassionate one. He must be biased. So he's some, when you offer, when you offer car, house, And he says, oh, I'm going to send him faster. So someone who only have flour to offer, oh, you just wait for a while. Only you have kata, oh, then it takes maybe so many years. So that's the, Nyembu chocks. And, the defilements more settled, and the antidotes is more settled, more profound. So from that, you can compare Sutrayana and Tantrayana. One is more profound than others. And Sutrayanas mention about, attainment of the Buddha. So Buddha talked about the form Buddhas, Dhammadhatu, Dhammakayas, So Tantrayana saying that the very form body, very substantial cause of the form body, and right now, before you got enlightened, you are using substantial cause for the form body to manifest in the deity. The Sutrayana is not really mentioned about that. So just two yana is different. One is more forward. But just having, for example, if you have Mahayana text, and having book Mahayana don't make you Mahayana, right? So when you follow the Hinayana text, the Hinayana study, so the text is not going to define you as the Hinayana and Mahayana. So if you have a teacher who is Bodhisattvas, that does not make you Bodhisattvas. Yeah, this is like almost like if you just stay in that, house, and that makes you rich. So everybody goes there, So let me stay for one day, so one night. So so the what really defines the Mahayana and Hinayana is motivations. If you have motivations, a strong, genuine the desire to free every sentient beings, and that defines you, the Mahayana. Receiving so much Mahayana sutras or teaching is not necessarily you become the Mahayana. I was told by Madhuma in Tibet, some are very rich persons. When they eat, they tsamba. It says even the small bugs and on the leg there's tsamba, and they always do that. So tsamba is waste. So bugs, there's what called leg. If there's anything tsamba is good. So they say, oh, I'm not going to waste this tsamba. So only the rich people can do that. So the poor people, they say, oh, bugs, just throw it. Some, we have another monk. He always, in his room, is very neat, very clean. So in the winter time, it's very cold. Morning, he gets up and he do his puja, and then he cleans everything, and he make the bed very clean and very straight. So because of the clean, he cannot sit on that bed. So the whole morning he has to sit on the chair, because if you sit on the bed, it will mess the sheets. So this is how so, because of his kind of cleanness, makes him so uncomfortable that he could not really sit on his bed. So we just sometimes we call it, he's coming from the God realm. So God beings are very clean. So now he's not really suitable in human realm. So comfortable beds, comfortable, the cushions, he cannot really sit on there because it will mess things. So you want to keep it very clean and neat. Yeah. Any questions? Oh, it's 4:30 now. Do you have any questions? Okay. Chanju simjo rinpoche maje bana geju geba nyamba mebanyo kone kondo pewaje tonyi tawa rinpoche maje bana geju geba nyamba mebanyo kone kondo pewaje pama simjen tamje dedan denju nyendro tamje tado tong chanju simba kama sushe tada kunji molom drupje karara webe shinganzo kandan dewa malo jo jere sama tinzen jasu shabe side bado denju
May the precious body mind not yet on horizon grow. May the wonder will not decline but increase forever. May the precious mind realizing the emptiness not yet on horizon grow. May the wonder will not decline but increase forever. Due to all these merits, may all father and mother sentient beings have all the happiness. And may all law realms be empty forever. Wherever there are Bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred land surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. More powerful chanting continues. Remain in this world until samsara ends.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Safe trip.
Okay, thank you. See you soon. Okay.